Today on SoftEller Tech Briefs, we're taking a deep look at the dedicated development team model, what it is, how it's structured, when it fits your project, and how to hire and manage a dedicated team from start to finish. For most companies today, it's not an option, but rather a necessity to have a process backed by robust tech stacks. Today's customers, both enterprise and individual, have grown so accustomed to software applications delivering rapid results and facilitating efficiency that if you don't have one supporting crucial business tasks, it can dim your organization's future outlook. It is against this backdrop that many businesses now find themselves in need of dedicated software development teams as they strive to be innovative amidst technological pressures. Today, we'll comprehensively cover dedicated development teams, their meaning, advantages, and disadvantages, and potential use cases where they can be optimally applied. We'll also compare dedicated team services with other software creation methods and walk through helpful tips on how to hire your own dedicated development team for your company's use. What is a dedicated team? In software development, a dedicated development team refers to a specialized group of technically adept IT professionals assembled by a company to work exclusively on actualizing software development projects that are pertinent to its business. These teams are usually cross-functional, consisting of technicians versed in fields such as software development, quality assurance, project management, UI/UX design, data analysis, business analysis, and so on. The dedicated software development team model differs from traditional outsourcing models in that development tasks are not randomly attributed to different individuals or vendors. Instead, the team works in an integrated manner, similar to that of an in-house team, with the same level of commitment and focus but off-premises and sometimes remotely. A dedicated team of developers is particularly advantageous for companies embarking on software projects because it affords continuity, especially when working on long-term initiatives. Team members on a dedicated roster can understand the scope of the project at hand and its requirements more intimately, allowing them to align development outcomes with business goals better. In the present technological climate, dedicated teams are typically put together with the help of specialized third-party firms whose function is to search for competent development professionals, interview them, and orient them on client development objectives. Structure of an effective dedicated team. Although the size of a dedicated application development team may vary widely depending on the project's scope and complexity, the dedicated team structure is typically made up of the following personnel. The project manager is the team leader who controls the whole development process, from project management to time schedules and coordination between various team members. They keep the project running according to plan and within budget. The solution architect is responsible for designing and overseeing the technical framework of the software project. They ensure that the architecture aligns with both business requirements and technical standards. Their role includes defining system specifications, integrating various components, and addressing complex technical challenges to build scalable and efficient solutions. Software developers are the core of the dedicated team that undertakes the writing and implementation of the code that powers software applications. Among the main tasks they handle are feature development, bug fixing, and performance optimizations to ensure the application can scale efficiently. In a dedicated development team, the QA engineer tests the software for bugs and other issues before the product goes live. This involves creating test cases, running them, documenting failures, and working with developers on the product's final quality to ensure that it meets all functional and non-functional requirements. The role of the UI/UX designer is intertwined with user satisfaction, client branding, and user expectations. They develop application interfaces that enable users to interact with computer systems. They must ensure that these interfaces are attractive and easy to use and navigate. The business analyst's job is to liaise between the technical team and the client and ensure that development outcomes align with business objectives. They gather and analyze application requirements and document the development processes to ensure their outcomes can be repeated, whether successful or avoided. They communicate client goals to developers by translating business needs into actionable development tasks. Also, business analysts interpret technical language in progress reports into understandable terms for the client. DevOps engineers are tasked with automation and streamlining software development, deployment, and operation. They work on managing infrastructure and setting up continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines to ensure that software can be reliably deployed at scale. When a dedicated development team model is the right call. Engaging a dedicated development team is a great choice if you're looking to materialize any software project. However, there are specific scenarios where this kind of approach might be more beneficial and productive. Hence, one should carefully assess the situation on the ground to determine if a dedicated crew will be a good fit. For long-term development projects that require ongoing development, an ideal consideration would be utilizing a dedicated development team. With this model, the same set of professionals can focus on the project from start to finish, and they can better understand the product and its changing requirements. Consequently, this sustained continuity speeds up the development process by reducing the time involved in hiring new employees, and it limits the possibility of knowledge transfer gaps. For complex projects that require specialized expertise, some software projects are so complex that a company might require individuals with expertise in nascent technologies and niche programming languages or frameworks to actualize them. In such a situation, it is crucial to have a dedicated development team composed of experts who can address challenges and devise solutions to development barriers immediately. Having these top talents on a committed contract ensures the development process proceeds seamlessly without hindrances due to skill gaps. Also, it allows the client company to access skilled expertise without reinforcing the workforce mid-project. For projects that need quick scaling or expansion, one of the consequences of having a successful product that thrives on the market is the inevitable need to scale up to meet consumer demands. Dedicated application development teams are perfect for such expansion needs because of the levity they allow the client to upsize and downsize team members. Another usefulness of these teams in such a scenario is that they can be assembled quickly without lengthy recruitment processes. The development company only needs to contact a reputable IT staffing vendor, and the requisite experts for the project would be on hand for project kickoff. The dedicated model helps businesses maintain momentum in responding to new market opportunities. For projects that require close collaboration and control, a dedicated team will work great when you need to keep the details of your software development project close to the chest, a very common occurrence in the IT world. The team structure allows stakeholders to communicate their vision to developers directly, receive updates on project ongoings, and adjust course as they see fit in real time. Also, trust breaches won't be an issue because dedicated teams typically work in a closed-off environment. You can outsource without sacrificing confidentiality by choosing which developers are privy to what technical information regarding the project. When not to use a dedicated development team model. Even though the dedicated development team model has many advantages, there are situations where it might not be the most suitable development option for your project. For short-term or one-off projects, if a project requires a shorter time frame, is relatively simple, or is just a one-time thing, it may be too much trouble to assemble and manage a dedicated IT team. Resources and time spent on onboarding such a team might be more than the value in benefits you will get in return. In cases like this, a more dynamic model, for example, hiring freelancers or working with a company that offers staff augmentation services, can be more cost-effective and quicker, allowing you to get the job done without unnecessary long-term commitments or expenses. For projects with limited time and budget, when you have a project with little money and time at your disposal, a dedicated team may not be the best fit. Dedicated team collaborations are resource and time intensive, so they aren't always the best choice for projects with budget, deadline, or scope constraints. If you only need a minimal viable product in a hurry or are working with a tight budget, an ad hoc development solution like staff augmentation might be just what you need. Instead of having a full-time team, this approach enables you to dynamically allocate resources to meet immediate needs. For projects with a fully defined scope, suppose a company is embarking on a project that has a fully defined and understandable scope with clear notions of budget, timeline, and expected deliverables. In that case, the essence of having a dedicated team diminishes slightly. In such a situation, using a fixed-price model where the developers work on predefined tasks within a specific budget and schedule can be more cost-efficient and productive. This is because, at its core, the dedicated team model thrives on adaptability, as well as evolving project needs. If everything is already defined and unlikely to change, other approaches might be more efficient, cost-wise, and process-wise. Benefits of using the dedicated team model. Let's walk through the key advantages. Focused commitment is perhaps one of the most important advantages of hiring dedicated dev teams. When you delegate your project development to a dedicated group of professionals, the developers are not contractually allowed to take up side gigs and can focus all their attention and energy entirely on your project. This concentrated effort speeds up the development process and results in higher quality deliverables because developers can better limit distractions and pool their resources together to solve complex problems. The model is also suitable for complex projects. Few software development techniques are as fitting for large, complex projects as the dedicated model. This is why many established companies and startups, even those with substantial in-house teams, still favor the method for developing novel and intricate initiatives. However big your development goals, be it a multi-phase web platform, sophisticated enterprise software, or a server-intensive application, dedicated teams usually have the structure to support the project and see it through to completion. You also get access to top-level talent. Choosing a dedicated app development team to bring your application ideas to life means you get access to highly skilled IT professionals who have had years of experience developing applications for companies across different industries. As such, their experience on previous projects can come in handy should the team encounter challenges that demand inventive solutions. Dedicated teams enable efficient development pipelines. The structure and composition of a dedicated software team allow team members to work in sync without having to worry about administrative bottlenecks that might affect timelines. Because dedicated teams usually work with well-established processes and communication protocols, they can better organize development tasks among themselves to reach milestones quickly. This efficiency helps limit code errors and bug fixes, resulting in a faster time to market for digital products. You gain a higher level of project control. Compared to other development techniques, the dedicated software development team model gives the client unparalleled control over project direction. With a committed development crew handling your software's development, you can communicate your business needs to developers in real time, receive feedback immediately, and adjust course as necessary. Such a level of control ensures the project doesn't deviate from your intended vision mid-development. Team scalability is another great benefit. The dedicated team model allows companies to adjust team size when a project's needs change. Using this model, you can always add developers to your team when you need to meet critical deadlines urgently. Similarly, you can reduce the team size once the product has gone live, and it only requires maintenance like bug fixes and refactoring. This scalability helps you avoid unnecessary long-term commitments, so you only pay for critical services that your project demands. Project continuity matters too. Having the same group of people working on your software development project from start to finish lends a certain sense of continuity to it that wouldn't be present if tasks were handled by separate teams. When a dedicated team works on your project, the technicians that make up the team commit more time to understanding the project's details. This helps them integrate feature changes faster and with limited errors. There's cost-efficient staffing. When you consider other modes of outsourcing, hiring a dedicated team can seem expensive. However, when you weigh the cost of having full-time internal teams against dedicated teams, the dedicated option can prove more cost-effective in the long run. With a dedicated team, you don't have to expend finances on training staff or paying wages during low workload periods. You can simply downsize the team and channel those resources towards more pressing objectives. Faster project delivery is another advantage. Staffing vendors understand the need for urgency on software development initiatives, so they usually assemble dedicated teams to hit the ground running. The group is updated on the project's objectives from day one, or even during the interview phase, and workflows are established immediately. This agile approach pays off greatly, allowing team members to collaborate seamlessly and hit development milestones faster. And risk mitigation. Software projects are often fraught with various risks, some of which are not limited to scope creep, data vulnerabilities, and budget overruns. Dedicated teams help mitigate these possibilities by pinpointing potential issues early in the development process before they become debilitating to the project's progress. The transparent nature of the model ensures all developers are alerted to possible setbacks as they appear so they can address them proactively. Disadvantages of a dedicated development team. The dedicated team model has profound benefits, but it's not without its challenges. Higher upfront costs. To establish dedicated dev teams, you need to invest significantly from the very onset of the project, sometimes before you even know how long it will take to complete it. In other modes of subcontracting, such as project-based outsourcing or time-based staff augmentation, developer remunerations are typically tied to practicalities like time spent or deliverables submitted. In the dedicated model, however, teams are paid an ongoing salary to justify their total commitment to the project at hand. This can cause significant strain on the production budget, especially if your company is a growing startup with limited resources. Over-reliance on external teams. Using dedicated teams for complex projects can have a negative accumulated effect as the importance of in-house teams dwindles. This effect can be even more profound if you work with a dedicated offshore team. Cultural differences, communication barriers, and a lack of live interaction among team members can cause misunderstandings that are difficult to reconcile because the team is not tethered to the company, but to the project alone. If this continues long enough, you might have to transition the project in-house to ensure personal differences don't hinder its success. Cultural misalignment. One of the most frustrating aspects of working with an external application development team is that you run the risk of hiring a crew whose work ethics don't align with your company's culture and values. If you hire a team whose approach to problem-solving and issue resolution doesn't match your standards, your management team might have to dedicate more time to micromanaging them to get the best out of them. Micromanagement is far from ideal in software development, where one of the most valuable soft skills is time management. Resource underutilization. During the slower stages of a development project, such as the planning and post-launch support phase, dedicated teams can go underutilized, running up bills without working at full capacity. To ensure you're not paying for an entire team needlessly, you can downsize those developers who've completed their tasks and whose contributions are no longer needed. Potential for scope creep. Because dedicated developers mostly work on elaborate and complex initiatives, their software designs can sometimes go beyond the initial scope mapped out in the ideation stages. Without effective project management, this scope creep can damage a project by bloating the development budget and delaying project delivery. Dedicated team versus other service models. Let's compare how dedicated teams stack up against time-based staff augmentation and project-based outsourcing across several dimensions. On commitment level, with dedicated teams, the team is fully committed to your project long-term. With time-based staff augmentation, you're adding individual developers temporarily. With project-based outsourcing, commitment is project-specific and often ends after delivery. On control, dedicated teams offer direct communication and control over the team. With staff augmentation, control is limited to the tasks assigned. With project-based outsourcing, control is limited because the outsourcing provider fully manages the project. On flexibility, dedicated teams are easily scalable and adaptable to scope changes. Staff augmentation also scales easily. You can quickly add or remove resources as needed. Project-based outsourcing has a fixed scope and timeline, making adjustments more work. On cost efficiency, dedicated teams are cost-effective for long-term, complex projects. Staff augmentation is better for short-term needs. Project-based outsourcing usually has a fixed cost, but may include hidden fees for changes or additional work. On expertise, dedicated teams give you access to specialized skills tailored to your project needs. Staff augmentation provides access to skilled professionals, but expertise may vary. With project-based outsourcing, expertise is provided by the outsourcing company, often tailored to the project scope. Factors to consider before choosing a dedicated development company. Finding a concentrated, dedicated team that can help you crystallize your project ideas perfectly is no mean feat. In a world where there are as many certified, experienced experts as wannabes, it can be easy to fall into the trap of hiring the wrong software team. So, you must carefully consider the software development company that provides your crew. Assess technical skill sets and industry experience. Before choosing a company to provide a dedicated development team, you should assess their technical skills and industry experience. Look for those companies that have used technologies similar to those your project required in the past. For example, if your project is working on Java, you may need an experienced, dedicated Java developer. In this way, their previous experience can be useful if the team faces any challenges on your project. Evaluate communication skills. For any software development project to succeed, the staffing provider and business managers must have a certain level of rapport. Without it, it can be harder to find common ground when disagreements arise. To assess a provider's communication skills, closely examine how they respond to messages or calls during consultation. If the company places a high emphasis on transparency as one of its core values, it should have fast response times and quickly answer any reservations you might have about it. Check client references and reviews. One of the most effective ways to evaluate how dependable and efficient a dedicated team provider can be is to scrutinize the references and reviews of clients they've worked with before. If possible, reach out to their existing clients and find out how their encounters with the provider went. Ask them questions on things like the team's professionalism, quality of work delivered, or how they handled deadlines. If the provider can maintain long-term relationships with former clients without issues, chances are they'll also be a good fit for you. Examine security and IP protection policies. When outsourcing software development, you should verify that the staffing vendor has robust security measures in place to protect your sensitive data from unscrupulous elements. Before signing up, question their coding, data encryption, and management policies. If they don't align with your vision for a partnership, it is best you stay clear. Even if the provider's practices sit well with you, don't stop there. Go a step further to review their policies on IP ownership to ensure that your company retains full rights to the software once it is finished. You should have clear agreements on these issues to prevent potential legal disputes and protect your company's assets. Consider team scalability and flexibility. You can't always determine the exact needs of your software project before it commences. Software development projects are dynamic, and requirements may evolve many times through the course of a project. For this reason, you should choose a flexible provider who can help you scale the development team up or down as needed. During your scouting process, be sure to ask the provider how they handle changes in team size. Do they have the personnel on the ground to help you scale up capacity if needed? What are their terms for scaling down when the workload decreases? A vendor that is truly flexible should be able to accommodate your changing project demands without you having to compromise on quality or deadlines. How to hire a dedicated developer team. Searching for a development company that satisfies your project criteria is one thing. Hiring the actual development team is a whole other ballgame that demands finesse and strategy. Here is a step-by-step process to help you set up a dedicated team that works. First, define your project goals. Clearly defining what you intend to achieve with your software is the first step involved in assembling a cross-functional development team. By doing your due diligence to understand the project's objectives, you can better gauge the performance of the dedicated team and the project's success. During these early stages, it is important for you to identify the key features you want the application to have and set realistic timelines for building them. Down the line, this will help you communicate your vision better to the development crew. Second, identify skill and tech requirements. After you've pinpointed your project goals, what comes next is to determine which kind of expertise and technologies you need to bring it to life. Which programming language will best serve your purpose? Will you need any specialized frameworks? What kind of infrastructure will you need to support the project? Will you be needing more front-end, back-end, or full-stack capabilities? Getting answers to these questions early in the hiring process can help you create more precise job descriptions that attract high-caliber talent. Third, determine the team structure. The size and complexity of your project are deciding factors in how you compose your team. Some development roles are indispensable when assembling a new dedicated software team. Project managers, software coders, QA engineers, user interface designers, and DevOps specialists. These specialties are the basic building blocks of any development team and are absolutely necessary to create any tech stack. Although other positions are also important, they may be outsourced to freelancers, depending on your financial capabilities, or merged with other specializations, depending on the crew's versatility. Knowing exactly what you want the structure of your team to look like will prove useful in the next stage, as that information will guide how you assess a vendor's ability to handle your project. Fourth, appraise dedicated team providers. Now that you're clear on your project objectives, skill requirements, and team structure, the next logical step is to find a reputable firm that can provide you with competent, dedicated team developers. Apply the factors we discussed earlier: technical skill sets, communication, references, security, and scalability when evaluating potential partners. Fifth, choose a provider and sign an NDA. Once you've done your research and settled on a strong potential staffing partner, don't just proceed to sign the dotted line on the service level agreement. Before you do, insist on a non-disclosure agreement to protect your intellectual property rights and business data. While many providers guarantee their clients total ownership of the final product in their SLA, you can't be too safe when a project of critical magnitude is at stake. An NDA gives you legal recourse in the event of a data breach or clashing business interests. The hiring and onboarding phase will follow after you sign all necessary dedicated development team contracts. Sixth, hire and onboard developers. The success of this stage is more dependent on your staffing provider than it is on you or your HR team. Here, your vendor utilizes its pool of in-house professionals or sources for developers that match your skill requirements and can fit into your team structure by sending out calls for CVs to top-level developers across the globe. Although your vendor might well scrutinize the certifications and experience of the hired dedicated developers team, we advise you to conduct further interviews to gauge their hard skills, soft skills, and cultural fit with your organization. The onboarding period comes next after the developers are hired. This is when you acquaint the team with your project workflows, introduce them to team leads and internal staff, and grant them access to systems they'll need to work with. If this stage is well executed, you shouldn't worry about team integration into your project. Seventh, schedule a project kickoff meeting. If you've come this far, everything you need to commence your development initiative should be in place. However, before the project kicks off, you should schedule a project launch meeting so every involved party can be on the same page. All relevant stakeholders and staff who are invested in the project should be in attendance at this session. The meeting gives the project manager and team leads a platform where they can outline the project plan and clarify any uncertainties or reservations from team members. The outcome of this meeting sets the tone for your project once it starts. Eighth, set up communication channels. Effective communication is pivotal to the success of any business venture or relationship. There's nowhere where this fact is more evident than in a software development environment. You need effective communication channels to circulate new, pertinent information, address development issues, and maintain project transparency. Many project management and progress tracking tools on the market can help you achieve this efficient correspondence, some of which include Slack, Teams, Trello, Jira, Zoho, and Asana. It is not enough just to adopt these platforms. You have to make a point of the team utilizing them to provide status updates and feedback on ongoing assignments. The importance of investing in these communication platforms becomes more apparent as the project progresses through the ideation phase to actual coding and testing. At this stage of the development cycle, your team leads might have to check in with the dedicated teams more frequently to ensure development milestones align with the project's target. Ninth, commence the project. Once all the necessary preparations have been made, the project can now begin. The team is committed to following the set project timelines and plans that were agreed upon in the kickoff meeting and service contract. You must closely monitor progress, offer suggestions where necessary, and adjust needs as the project progresses. At this point, the project manager is instrumental in assigning duties, resolving issues as they come up, and keeping the team on track toward achieving the goals set out at the project's beginning. How to interview dedicated developers. To ensure you get the best possible developers when outsourcing a dedicated team from your staffing provider, here are some important pointers you should consider before conducting your interview. Settle on the mode of interview. How do you intend to conduct this interview? The most effective method depends on the location of the developers, whether they are onshore, offshore, or nearshore. For onshore teams, face-to-face interviews allow you to access developers on a personal level that you just can't get over a phone or video call. For remote teams, however, video conferencing apps might provide just enough balance between convenience and in-person interaction to help you assess essential characteristics. The most important thing for you is to be able to gauge the developer's professionalism, communication style, and cultural fit during the process. Discuss your technical needs, reiterate your technical requirements, project goals, and expected outcomes to potential developers during your interview process. Ask the developers if they've had experience working in this field. Even though a negative answer shouldn't be a deal breaker, you should make sure they have the necessary know-how to tackle project-specific challenges before hiring them. Evaluate technical proficiency. Technical proficiency is more than just something you can assess by asking a few questions. Organize practical tests such as coding, design, and test case creation challenges to test the developer's acumen. This gives you an opportunity to see how the developers approach problem-solving and work under high-pressure conditions. Make it a team effort. Making the interview process a collaborative effort that involves key stakeholders, such as technical leads or even end users, can help you conduct a well-rounded interview. The input of other prominent administrators can help cover lapses in your questioning that result from tunnel vision. Prepare your questions ahead. Winging it is not an approach that is ideal for a project as delicate as software development. Before the day, ensure you've created a mix of technical and behavioral questions that can accurately pinpoint a candidate's strengths and weaknesses. Besides giving you a blueprint from which to work, these questions can help you avoid hyper-focusing on only one line of interrogation. The cost of hiring a dedicated development team. The price of getting dedicated team development can fluctuate significantly based on several core elements. Knowing these elements can help you budget well and ensure that you get the best out of your investment. Team size and experience will greatly affect the cost. The number of developers and their expertise level matters. High-level skills or bigger teams are generally charged at higher rates. The complexity of the project also plays a role. Projects requiring advanced technologies, multiple integrations, or personalized solutions are usually expensive due to the increased development time and resources needed. Geographical location is important because some regions like North America or Western Europe may be more costly than territories like Eastern Europe or Asia. And the engagement period. Long-term projects can provide opportunities for cost savings through negotiated rates, but they also require continuous financial commitment. Regional disparities in the efficiency of dedicated development teams. The efficacy of a collaboration with dedicated development teams may be affected by regional differences. Developers worldwide don't have the same work ethic, and the cost of labor from region to region varies significantly. In Europe, technical competence and adherence to excellent standards are the trademarks of European developers. They usually have a good grasp of regulatory conformity, which makes them the perfect fit for jobs that need to follow strict industry rules. In Asia, teams are famous for being cost-effective and able to scale rapidly. They work well on large-scale projects with strict deadlines, although managing communication across time zones can become an issue. In North America, dedicated teams are known for their ability to innovate and stay up to date with emerging market trends. They are most suitable for projects that require close ties with business strategies or quick prototyping, though they tend to charge more due to higher labor costs in the region. Getting started on managing dedicated developers. Managing a dedicated development team effectively is crucial for your software project to be successful. Here are 5 tips to help you get started and ensure smooth collaboration. Set clear expectations from day one to ensure everyone is on the same page from the project onset. Establish reliable communication channels for regular updates and meetings so your project can be more transparent and you can address issues jointly. Promote a unified work culture by encouraging collaboration and involving the dedicated team in joint activities and off-duty activities. Use project management tools to monitor the accomplishment of project milestones and offer constructive feedback throughout the course of the project. Be supportive and try to accommodate slight alterations to the initial master plan if resources, infrastructure, or technology won't allow verbatim interpretations. This can go a long way in helping the team stay motivated and productive. Closing takeaway. In today's technology-oriented world, A dedicated software development team model is the way to go for businesses looking to be ahead of the game. These teams help companies undertake complex ventures, maintain consistency, and increase speed to market for digital products by offering specialized knowledge, adaptability, and scalability. Nevertheless, selecting an appropriate team requires bearing in mind project objectives, technical needs, and possible challenges. By following the steps outlined in this guide, companies can leverage dedicated app teams to drive innovation and growth while maintaining control over their software development processes. If you'd like to learn more about software development, AI, cloud, data engineering, and digital transformation, visit us at softeller.com.